What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Ask a Brother podcast. I'm your host, Jeff St. James. And listen, y'all, happy holiday breaks for everybody that's going to be able to get off over the next couple days or so. I'm excited about what's happening with this channel. I'm definitely excited about this guest and brother that I have on tonight. I had the pleasure of meeting him in Miami few months ago, and he's a real solid dude, really killing it in the game. But real quick, just a couple quick announcements. Number one, shout out to our subscribers. I just checked about 5 minutes ago, and we are officially, as of starting this channel in January, we are now at 32,411 subscribers. So shout out to y'all. I appreciate the support for sure. Easy way as people start to trickle in. I highly recommend, if you have not subscribed, please make sure that you do. A very easy cheat code way to make sure that you can just set and forget so that you can support the channel is to become a member. Membership starts at $2.99, and quite a few of you have joined over the last couple months, and I greatly appreciate it. Your boy is getting ready to fly out early next month to Atlanta for one of my final live shows and appearances. Well, actually, one of two that I have to appear in person next month. So that's a very easy way. So if you are watching currently, and if you're in the building, please kind of comment and let me know that you're in here. And again, make sure that y'all hit that like button for sure to make sure that you're here. Shout out to Noah. I see that you're in the building. Shout out to Chronically Growing for sure. Appreciate you for sure. Red Hat Camp for sure. Mrs. Plum always holding it down. Mrs. Plum, thank you for being the mod for tonight for sure. So real quick, y'all, just for starters, just to clarify, I've for the last couple weeks I haven't done any original content, so a lot of original content is going to be coming out next week. I'm probably only going to have 1 or 2 interviews lined up next week because my goal for sure. And welcome, Mr. Gino 4682 for joining just now for sure. So listen, y'all. I kind of have to balance if I'm going to do a lot of interviews or do a lot of content. So over the next week or two, I think I'm going to do a much more content because a lot of people have been asking about it. So I'm going to always figure out, kind of listen to the audience and kind of just adjust as it goes along. So my next episode, which I do plan to have coming out, if not tomorrow, definitely by Friday, will be how to become a master communicator. So stay tuned for that. Something tells me you all are going to like it. And the way I'm kind of feeling very super motivated, I have a strange feeling I might keep it going with just being locked in and focused and building this channel up organically for sure. Appreciate you, brother, for kind of joining the channel as well. All right, y'all. So our sponsor, thank you to our sponsor again, to Sable Botanical Farms for their healthy alternatives to assist you gentlemen in the bedroom with sexual performance and improving testosterone levels. So what we're going to do is watch a brief video from our sponsor, and then I'm going to introduce our guest. Stay tuned. Thanks again to Do Sable City Botanical Farms for that video. Feel free, if you all want to check their website out, we have the links in our channel description for sure. And if you can purchase anything, you can obviously use the coupon code, which is AskABrother10 for 10% off your next purchase. All right, y'all, without further ado, whenever I have an interview lined up, I already know that people aren't going to be here for me. So before I introduce them, I'm going to let you all know one more time. If you're in the chat right now, make sure that you like the video. Make sure that you send it to 2 or 3 people. Make sure you become a subscriber if you haven't done so. And I think this is going to be a great treat for sure. So without further ado, it's time for me to introduce tonight's guest. He is an independent conservative political commentator, a White House correspondent, and this man is a movement with 1.6 million followers on Twitter and /X alone. And we are absolutely blessed to have him come on the Ask a Brother podcast tonight. Please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Dom Lucre. What's going on?
Thank you. Thank you, bro. Happy to have you. I'm happy to be here.
Appreciate you, bro. So for starters, man, for my audience and people that may be new to you real quick, why don't you kind of let folks know a little bit about like how you got into politics and how you even became like a political commentator slash
Mhm.
correspondent?
Basically, I got in because I received a phone call from Senator Warnock's campaign in 2000 and November of 2022. I was living in Nashville. They were asking me to vote in a Georgia election, which is completely illegal. And Tennessee is a one-party consent state in terms of recording. So I went ahead and recorded the conversation. I had a debate with the Democrat woman that tried to get me voting the Georgia election, and that went viral. It helped me gain about 30,000 Twitter followers, and pretty much went on from there. Started doing my journalist things, breaking a lot of news stories and whatnot. What makes my brand kind of unique is, of course, my appearance. A lot of people, when they see me, they think I'm a rapper or something like that. But
Mhm.
that's the point I dress the way I do, because it's just to verify that we are in a different era, that you can have this melanin. You can dress the way you want to dress. You can represent yourself in whatever fashion you want to. But if you are a black man, the most important thing is your work has to make sense. The work has to match where you want to be in life. So you can dress how you want to be and you
Mhm.
can break barriers, but your work has to be bulletproof. You have to be that much better than everyone else. But if it's something that you want to do, if you don't want to live by the status quo, if you don't want to live by the current narrative and you want to break it, you have to be better than everyone else that is pushing the narrative. And
Mhm.
I'm just really here just to show people that you can wear jewelry, you can have these lifestyles and whatnot, and you don't have to rap. You don't have to risk your life. You can be these people all at once. It's you can quote unquote whatever they think might be cool. You can look cool in a
Mhm.
youth mind without doing what's generally considered cool. I just want to show you can have everything at once, and we don't have to fit ourselves to confine to a label or a narrative, man.
Nah, I appreciate that because I actually peeped and noted that for a while. And have you heard about the quarter zip trend going on right
Yeah,
now?
I'm seeing that. I love that. That's
And what's crazy is I think it's dope that it's happening. But at the
mhm,
same time, I agree with you that like we get to a place and point where we feel like we kind of have to lose so much of ourselves in order to
yes,
feel like we're accepted. And
mhm,
what you said was like a fire thing. At the end of the day, if you're going to do what you're doing, your work just needs to be excellent.
you
You
got to be
can't
great.
have subpar work and be wearing what you want and be,
Yeah,
and have some issues and be coming late. Like if you
mhm,
gonna be bring your own swag to it, you gotta bring something to the table to justify
yeah,
why you're in that space. And I
mhm,
appreciate somebody, believe it or not, I really appreciate someone who kept his locks because I cut my locks off about
mhm.
3 years ago, but
Oh man.
I kept mine for 9 years all
Oh
through my
wow.
career. Yeah. So, and it didn't affect me. It didn't stop
Mm.
me. I just got tired because my neck started hurting personally.
Yeah. So they were heavy.
Yeah. How
Them
long?
locks, they're antennas, man. I've been growing since 2017.
Nice, nice, nice. 2017. Before what I'm about to ask you, I'll circle back to it.
Mm,
So one of the big things I've been wanting to ask you since we first met down in Miami is one of the major things that happened in the last year or so was obviously the presidential election last year, right?
yeah.
Obviously between Kamala and um, Donald Trump in terms of the presidency. Looking back, what were some of the major cultural divides you saw that really caused people to kind of split and either vote one way or the other from your vantage point as an analyst and commentator?
The major divides I would have to say is people that were still following celebrities, like the old model of, I guess, just humans as a whole. There are those that were following that versus those that were following influencers and streamers and podcasters. Because the people that were following the youth, Gen Z, etc., Generation Alpha,
Hmm.
they were streamers. They were the people that's the next wave of celebrity. It was YouTubers, podcasters, etc. Those were the people that were against Kamala Harris. But the people that were the old vanguard, Hollywood, rappers and whatnot, the people that are a part of the same system that we've been trying to break over the past decade, those are the individuals that were pushing Kamala Harris. So we could see a cultural
Mm.
divide of the old versus the new. You see the young kids, streamers, Aiden Ross, Casanat, etc. They all, had great things to say about Donald Trump and not too many good things to say about Kamala Harris. But you might have Cardi B, on the other hand, with John Legend and Megan Thee Stallion, which they represent the old guard. They represent the
Mm.
old system that people are trying to break away from. The reason why podcasters and all these other new voices exist, because people are trying to break from the old system. So you see the people that were still holding on to the old system support
Mhm.
Kamala Harris, and the people that are pushing for the new revolutionary America where independent voices reign supreme. Those were the people that were clashing with the Kamala Harris supporters.
Nah. And now that you bring that up, because I did see their strategies were totally different in terms of who they were targeting. Like you said, she brought up Beyonce, she had Cardi, she had Meg Thee Stallion, she had Glorilla, and she even had all these different celebrities,
Definitely.
endorsements and whatnot. And it just
No,
didn't
don't hit.
it didn't hit the same like it used to. And like you said, it was the streamers, the podcasters, it was the manosphere stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoever was on Trump's team, including Barron, they knew where we were in terms of where most people that were getting their
Mhm.
news and getting their information wasn't from MSNBC and CNN.
Yep.
They weren't getting it from that stuff anymore. They're getting it from podcasts. They're getting it from
Yes.
long form content. So I understand now, like you get it, I get it now. People,
Mhm.
you started way before me. It's shocking that like a multi-billion-dollar party that spent over $1 billion in their campaign
Mhm.
didn't know that like the whole old guard stuff.
Well,
That's just
the thing is, I can tell you, I know that I can say confidently, they do know that it doesn't work anymore. But the problem is, they feel like they could still force it. So they know that people, they see where everyone is going as a whole. That's why Kamala Harris was standing on with podcasters like Call Me Daddy. Anyone that would accept her, she did go on podcasts too. But the
Mhm.
problem was this: she wasn't able to go to the top dogs, the youth, Gen Z. She wasn't
Mm.
able to get none of those top streamers, no XQC, no Mr. Beast, none of that. They wouldn't stand 10 feet of her. And that's who really is running the culture. I Show Speed, Castaneda, Aiden Ross. She couldn't get none of the big three.
Wow.
And that says a lot, because it doesn't matter where we were, it's about where we're going. That's just how
Mm.
we are as humans. And we're heading towards a streaming culture, podcast culture. And it's one thing for her to pay for it, but those that everyone truly, truly care about, she could not obtain them. So
Wow.
she could never really have her grasp on that culture, but she was able to attain all the celebrities. So she went all in on what she had access to. They
Mm.
tried. They offered all these podcasters money, but they didn't take it.
Mhm.
They were
Mhm.
pushing for Donald Trump instead. So she just really lost the culture, her and
Yeah.
Democrats as a whole.
Culture for sure, and then also the reneging or whatever she did with Joe Rogan was like insanity to me because
Yeah.
he's the biggest podcaster at the time, and it made so much logical sense. Like, why would you avoid him when you clearly know? And I knew what it was. She was fearful that she wasn't going to get the softball
Yeah.
interview and that she was going to look back because I'm like, I saw her on The View, I saw her with Oprah, and she was messing up with softball questions then. Well, I remember
Mhm.
when The View, the thing to me, I remember the part where her entire campaign fell apart. It was on The View. Sunny Hostin had asked her, with everything going on, what's something that you would do different from Joe Biden in terms of policies and how he kind of ran things? Shorty said nothing. She
Mhm.
said, I think he did a great job. And I'm like, everybody is upset and unhappy about the quality of what's happening in the country. And for
Yeah.
her or her team to have not given her an answer to that was like it was one of the wildest things I think I had ever seen in my life. And speaking of that, what was the message and tone you felt liberals were pushing in contrast to conservatives to men, women, and even the black community from your vantage point?
I feel like liberals were pushing a message of never again. So it was a stupid message. They were pushing that we can never go back to where we were. They were saying we can never go back. That's what they were pushing. They said we can't go back to radical America. We can't go back to MAGA America. We can't go back to conservatism. We can't go back to Trump. Their main theme they were pushing was never go back. Right
Mhm.
before Joe Biden was forced to drop out, they were saying the most consequential president of all time. These people, they have these talking points and they get them on these group chats on Telegram, etc. And they have a pyramid of who has to release what. So all these things are completely coordinated.
Mm.
The Democrat coordinated message was never to go back, but that's a problem because most Americans was like, I don't want to be where we are. We're trying to go back. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. I think that was a huge blunder that they did.
Mhm.
And Trump's message was completely the opposite, which was pushing forward, make America great again. So it's weird because Donald Trump's strategy
Mhm.
kind of played on Kamala Harris' strategy, and she did that unintentionally because her strategy with Democrats was to never go back, and they made it look like it's a bad thing. Well, Trump's entire strategy was we're trying to get back to our greatness, make it great again.
Mm.
So a lot of people resonated with going back because they was like, shit, it was a lot better back in the past. And Kamala Harris saying never go back. I don't like how we're moving forward. That
Mm.
itself just didn't resonate with the American people. It was a huge blunder on Democrats' part because they forgot that many Americans were nostalgic of the past.
What do you
And they were
think? Yeah, sorry, I sorry to cut you off. And
okay.
keeping with that, not just about the never going back, what specifically do you think that was what were they communicating to women and communicating to men that potentially kind of potentially cost them the election from your vantage point?
Well, mainly with the women vote, they were just trying to specifically say that women can do it too. It wasn't really saying how they're qualified. The way that it was pushing, it was just saying that she's in the position of running for president because they can do it too. But just because they can do it too, it doesn't really validate the reasoning behind her being a person that should do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they really didn't validate Kamala Harris' position for being a woman to do it. They were just saying that women can do it because Kamala Harris is. So that didn't really work well. And obviously, Donald Trump, they were completely doubling down on men. They
Mm-hmm.
doubled down completely on men because they felt like if we can get the strong men, they can lead the women to the polls. And it was a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
They pushed in for the men completely. Look at the podcasters that they did, the type of content that they pushed, even some of the insults that they made to women. They knew it would have a lot of leeway with the young men. I think that MAGA ended up trying to double down on the young men opposed to the women.
I agree with that. And I think the number one image that I kept seeing and kept hearing damn near everywhere, every time anybody that was stumping for her, pundits were stumping for her, it was about abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the things going on in society, open border, wars, violence, males and female sports and all this chaotic stuff going on. And the number one thing, and we even saw the data after they were coming out of these exit polls, a lot of the Gen Z and millennial women, their number one thing out of everything happening in the country and around the globe was abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's a losing strategy to me.
Yeah.
That's a losing strategy. And again, she did get a lot of women to vote for, but in hindsight, I think, that was very clear, was like, this is our most important thing that we're running on. And to men, it's like, y'all just need to support your women, I guess. That was especially what I think it was communicated in amongst black men in the Democrat Party. It's not like we're not going to deliver or even share anything in terms of what we think you legitimately need or care about. It's like, we're running on abortion and your women are going for it. So you guys need to kind of fall in line and support them as well. And I saw and look in hindsight, Obama, Michelle, other commentators, they were like attacking men for not falling in line to get behind Kamala. Did you kind of sense and notice that too?
Yeah, they definitely were. That was just their theme. They were trying to capitalize on kind of like the beta male type mindset that a lot of men have in this current era, and hoping that they would resonate with the wife and follow blindly behind their wives because the wives said it was time for a female president. But it's just that in the manosphere now, it's just that's not really what's the direction the men are going. I could say maybe if we were in the earlier 2020s, but most men, for the most part, they feel like their wives are trying to impress them, and they're really getting into their dominant energy, their masculine energy, and saying, hey, I'm going to lead us forward. We're not where we want to be over the past few years. Let's try it my way. That's where a lot of men are right now. And it's unfortunate for Democrats because they try to push a message of telling the woman to lead forward in a time where men are just really trying to regain their authority, honestly, in relationships. So I think it was horrible timing for them because most men, they're at the point now in their relationships, they've tried to woke way. They've tried to deliver way and say, okay, let me take over this a little bit. Let's see where I can take us. So I think Democrats had horrible timing on that, on trying to have women lead. But I do agree with you. Their strategy was to focus on the women and tell the women to coerce the men to vote for Kamala.
What do you think has happened to the left in America over the last 10, 20 years? Because for me, just self-disclosure, I, from an adult all the way up until a couple years ago, like I functionally moved and voted primarily like a Democrat. And I finally had to move away. And for me personally, I actually didn't feel like I actually changed that much. I felt like the party itself kind of changed a lot. And I don't think, like we say it all the time, I don't think that I left the party. I think the party left me, and a lot of people who think like me as well. From your vantage point as a conservative, what do you think and see that kind of happened to the left or the Democrat Party at this point?
The Democrat Party, the problem was that it chose to absolve accountability after the early 2000s. So I'll say like after 2008, they started a new strategy where it's like no one in the party is a problem, but everyone that's outside the party is. So they could say if you're gay, they could say if you're transgender, they could say that if you have these mental health issues, they could say any of these things that these people identify with that typically wasn't considered acceptable in society. They tell them that you don't have to fix the problem. The problem is with the world and the problem isn't with you. And that led to one thing to the other. They constantly get these false validations that they aren't the problem and they aren't making problems, that things are just happening to them. Well, it's okay at first. Same thing can be said with kids. It's okay to tell your baby boy that it's not his fault that he broke that vase. And it's okay to tell him that it's not his fault that he ate everything. But the truth is, if you raise your son with the mindset that Democrats have raised their voters, you have serial killers. That's the reason
Mm,
why you're starting to see transgender shoot up schools now. School shooters don't even look the same no more. They're almost always liberal now because they have been told time and time again that it's the world and it's not them. So
mhm,
the party changed because the party stopped taking accountability. There was once a time where the Democrat and Republican Party said, okay, we can at least be accountable for the country. But Democrats will constantly say that the country is a problem and that they are just complete victims of it and they have nothing to do with the state of the world. They completely ignore their hand and role in the world while Republicans embrace it and say we can do things better. If you constantly tell voters that it's not their fault, there's nothing they need to improve, they're going to digress. They're going to
mm,
constantly like de-evolve. And we're seeing a party de-evolve because the main aspect of growth is chaos, pain, suffering, and most importantly, making mistakes and being aware that you're making a mistake. Democrats for the past 2 decades have not been aware that they made a mistake. They're perfect. The world is a problem. So that means they get to continue through this bad behavior. There's nothing in their mind to motivate them to change their behavior. There's no reason for a Democrat to change their behavior because they have an entire party to tell them their behavior isn't the party, isn't a problem. It's the world around them that's
mm.
making them behave that way. So it's a false sense of reality. And you have people that are acting in a false sense of justice.
Wow. Wow. And that makes so much sense because they're using the Marxist framework, right? Where they view everything through the lens of oppressed versus oppressor.
Yes.
And, now your job, if you're on the left, is to just figure out how many boxes you can check off as far as being oppressed. And if your life sucks or something happens, it automatically has to be because it's the white man,
Yep.
because they're haters, because it's the system. It's always because of, like you said, it's always because of something or someone else. So I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why they always go to the government with the hopes of the government fixing something, the
Mhm.
government and doing an intervention, because like you said, it's always external versus looking inward at what we can do as a community, as individuals. It's always through that lens of we need the government to intervene because it's always some external thing that's going on. I love how you broke that down.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, yeah. Why has the entertainment industry, I'm thinking about like Disney and other companies for sure, why is the entertainment industry and media pushed so hard to replace men in shows and in films and push more like LGBTQ messaging, especially when I'm starting to notice a lot in children's like shows, books, movies? Why do you think that's happening?
It makes a lot of sense to me, just simply because if you replace the man, same thing. Well, it makes me want to refer back to 1963 because 1963 is the year before we had the civil rights era.
Mhm.
And what a lot of blacks are unaware of, prior to 1964, we had the highest participation rate in the workforce. We had higher birth numbers and higher marriage rates. So we were, for the most part, the best Americans in America prior to 1964. We did better than every other race. But you notice after 1964 happened, you saw the welfare state, we had the civil rights era, we were told we were victims, and we actually lost a lot of rights that we had because they claimed that we didn't have any. And they were able to create a narrative to claim that we were victims and it was able to devalue us because they found out prior to 1964 that niggas didn't need the government. And if you don't
Mhm.
need the government, you don't assist the government. And if you don't assist the government, you're costing the government. You're not benefiting the country. So in the end, they caught niggas was costing the country too much money. I'm be honest. So they had to bomb their cities. They had
Mhm.
to open up the dams because the country would have went in debt because niggas didn't need the government. They were self-sufficient. That's why you had to bomb Black Wall Street. That's how you had to destroy Seneca Village. I'm saying that to say this.
Mhm.
You need to create a group of people that are victims, submissive, and dependent on the government. Men aren't those things naturally, but women are. So you
Mhm.
got to make women the leaders of the household, the same way that they broke men down and they created welfare state in 1964, where they said you have to have a single parent household in order to get help from the government. So they kicked the men out. They need people to depend on the government. They need individuals to depend on the government. And there are women that are more dependent than men. So if
Mhm.
you let women control the household, if you let women control the future, you have a entire generation of individuals that are submissive and ready to go at the true dominance force's hand. So if a political party tells them to do anything, they'll sit there blindly and will completely submit to whatever the orders are. Men are going to question things because that's our position on earth. But if you put men out of the ability to make decisions, you will see the worst mistakes of all time. And that's what they're doing. They're intentionally trying to put people in position that aren't capable to make these hard choices. And they say it's women. The more they can convince women that they can play a role they can't play, it puts the world, it's like it puts the world at a greater risk of being put under submission. Because if you have the most submissive gender in control, the only thing that can follow after that is submission, not dominance. They're going to submit to whatever is a higher power. They need submission. They need women to rule the households. They need feminine men, because feminine men get locked up and they help the school to prison pipeline. And you need single mothers to depend on the government because you don't have the man to help them. So the government's winning twice through the welfare state of the woman. And then she gets to create other killers that can go right to the private owned prisons. It's a perfect system. So instead of niggas hurting the system by being independent, they say we can make them the most dependent people on the system. So now we get locked up the most, and we have the highest number of overturned cases. A lot of people will say, well, black people got the most crimes and stuff, but we have the highest overturned by far. Most of these niggas that get convicted is false.
Yeah.
So even reality itself, it has a lot of lies, but there are a lot of things that you can profit from a group of people that's been broken down. You see it in the black community, and we're seeing it right now happening with feminine men. They've done this before. You got to understand that black people, we were the model. They tested this shit on us first because they understood that it weren't enough people that would fight for us. So once they got that test, they got that data, they said we can try it on the masses. They've done these things already. I mean, Tupac, everyone knows that Tupac, when he first started, he never had a thug life tattoo or whatnot. It was pushed for him to do that. This happened after a meeting with private prisons that they convinced these people to push these messages. They need feminine men. And even more so, what's also odd, not only was Tupac forced to get a thug life tattoo, they made the nigga get a nose ring as well and made him sit in a bathtub naked with a jury on him. They wanted us to see these things. They wanted to break us down. They wanted us to be more feminine. They wanted to get us to this point because feminine men can't run anything.
Damn. It's wild in hindsight to realize how much we as a community collectively kind of bought in hook, line, and sinker into this. And the worst part about it is they are voting a certain way, following these politicians, following the boule, like listening to the celebrities. They're seeing the outcomes of everything being functionally worse, minus many of the black women feeling like, well, I got my degree and I got a decent job. Everything else in our community is worse. And they never thought about the idea, maybe we have to do something different. And that relates to what I wanted to ask you next about, like, have you always been a conservative, or did you at some point later in life become one? And then, like, what was that journey of like politically identifying as a conservative, especially as a black man?
Awesome question. What made me a little bit different is I have been a conservative since 6 years old. Never had the opportunity to be a Democrat yet. And it's my dad is a Democrat. My mom is conservative. They were happily married till she passed in 2009. And they were able to keep their political independence. But I just followed after my mom, went down to the polls. I was 6 years old. She was voting for George Bush. My dad was voting for Al Gore. And this is where I made my choice. I was 6 years old at the time. I asked my mom why she was voting for. Well, I asked my dad initially why he voted for Gore. He didn't really give me much of an answer about it. And then I went ahead and asked my mom the same question. Hey, why are you voting for Bush? Mom gave me more, detail, about 12 minutes of a response. Just as a kid, my parents gave me the freedom to choose, and I just something about that. The fact that my mom had more information than my dad pretty much just like, yeah, we're gonna vote Democrat because that's what we're supposed to do. And my mom really, really had a whole thought process of why she was Republican, and I really appreciated that she was able to break that down. And honestly, if my dad was able to break it down the same way, and my mom was to say I'm just Republican because I'm Republican, I would have been Democrat. Like, that whole conversation is what led me to be Republican, because I was like, man, if people are following Democrats just because that's what black people are supposed to do, and my mom's following Republican because she's learned something, even at 6 years old, I could tell that I need to follow someone that at least reads into their choices. So I followed after my mom very early with that. That was probably the largest choice I made as a kid. Honestly, it's something that resonates to the day, but it was a very big choice I made at 6, and I didn't know what it was really. And I'm gonna tell my mom, well, I'll be Republican with you. And it just kind of, stayed that way, especially after she died. When people die, then you go all the way in on the things that they instill in you. So I can also say her death kind of solidified me maintaining conservative, because she loved it so much. She was the only conservative really in the family, and I really want to, I'm a son. I like to honor that dream too. So I know that that helps. That's some of the motivation of why I'm still conservative more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely my mom. My mom is the reason why I've been conservative pretty much. It's the first party I've ever had.
Yeah, before I ask my follow-up question, I see on here Chicago Black delegation pulled up and said, "Why are so many people pretending there's no thought process to voting Democrat?" Man, what are we talking about? What do you think about that?
So they said with what exactly? I'm kind of confused.
Why are so many people pretending there's no thought process to voting Democrat?
Um, well, there is a thought process to voting Democrat, but the problem is that the vast majority that vote Democrat don't have a thought process for doing so. That's all. The majority vote is what matters. You can even look at the world. A lot of people look at America and see how blessed we are, just to have what we have: air conditioning, access to drinkable water, electricity. And you might think, when you wake up in the morning, most humans say life is good. Nigga, life is only good for you in America, because if majority is what matters, and you telling me the majority of the world is in third world countries, that means the human experience itself is in a third world country, and only the minorities are living in first world countries. So that would mean majority of the world is still living in pretty shitty conditions. It's a
Mm,
false perception of reality. And the same can be said with Democrats. They don't have a full grasp on reality. They don't use those thought processes as they should.
mhm.
Most Democrats or majority aren't using thought process and majority rules. So that can be said. That's why people say Democrats don't use a thought process to vote, because if you go down the street and you run into 20 Democrats, about only 4 of them going to tell you why they actually vote blue. Majority
Right.
creates the perception of reality. Majority wins every time. We base our reality on the majority processes of human beings. Majority
Mm,
of Democrats don't have a reason behind it. So that's just the reality of it. Those 2, 3, 4 that you can find in the street that can break it down and give you a seminar, they're in a minority. So
minority.
it matters nothing. It matters not. It matters nothing on the polls either. The majority that are voting is what matter.
Yeah, yeah. I actually agree with that. And having grown up around them, done life with them, was about to join a socialist organization and kind of, going back and forth to kind of find out really how they think and process information. Um, they functionally move and vote in terms of group consensus. It's
Mm,
all about whatever's the current trend that we're supposed to now adopt, whether it's gender ideology, whatever new identity we want to claim. So when Obama was in place, we were against open borders, and now that Biden's in office, we, we're against deportation. Like, they're just going with whatever they're kind of told.
mm,
And at least I see, and there's actually significant data that shows. I was reading research on it recently, multiple articles that's been pointing out when they do studies, there's actually diversity of thought on the right when it
mm,
comes to just difference of opinions. You see it with clashing between a whole host of groups, and there's just a lot. You're just allowed difference of opinions about how to approach different things with different foreign nations.
yeah.
You're allowed that. You're allowed to have that robust debate. You can have a Nick Fuentes on one side, and you on one side, and Candace on one side, and
Mm,
and Officer Tatum on another side, and you can have all these different people kind of chipping away, and it doesn't mean that you're eating each other, eating up on each other. It's more so about we're constantly trying to shape and hone what's this party supposed to be, and trying to,
yeah.
get them to actually deliver on some tangibles. Whereas
And
to
it's,
the left, there's just like a catechism of just check off boxes of things you just kind of
yep.
have to just accept mindlessly. And these are things that you didn't even have to accept 5 years ago that you now have to say, as if there's a reason why one side of the aisle, none of them can say what a woman is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
None of them can say what a woman is. And that's
No, I
why,
can't.
because 5, 8, 10 years ago, that would have never been a difficult conversation for them. And now
Mhm.
that it's the new trend, now that it's the new thing that we're supposed, the new dogma, they they constantly have these things that they now have to feel like, I guess this is now what I have to believe, this is now I have to move.
Mhm.
And they're not realizing, like, you're not actually allowed independent thought as a Democrat, as a
No,
liberal,
you're not. And
at
they
all.
do a good job of like masking our independence. You did a really good job of like analyzing that, but they do a good job of masking how conservatives are independent like that, because they'll constantly just focus on like Nick Fuentes and completely ignore that it's ass people that's attacking Nick Fuentes every single day. They'll ignore that. They'll say, "Oh, the right is everything Nick Fuentes. He's the most important figure in the right wing," and they intentionally do that because the ignorant Democrats that's looking, they'll say, "Well, Nick Fuentes, all y'all like Nick Fuentes." And completely ignore that there's so much dissonance, there's so much beef, so many problems in the right because we allow free speech. No one all like there's no one person that everyone agrees with,
Correct.
but somehow they'll focus on whoever they deem the most radical, put a spotlight on them, and then make it seem like everyone else resonates with them. It's complete manipulation. But it's weird because the left is the people that never argue with each other, but they will never, ever, ever like display our disagreements ever. They won't highlight that because that makes us look independent. They will always say that they're white supremacists and this is the person they pick. It'd be completely disingenuous when you have individuals that's at the highest level of conservatism that will denounce people like Nick Fuentes every single day, but yet they'll somehow claim that the right represents Nick. It's the manipulation that they use. But we do argue a lot. We do have a lot of freedom of choice, like you said. It's just the media does a really good job of hiding that, I believe.
Yeah. Because I think they dominate academia. They have majority of the legacy media. They just dominate a lot of certain spaces. And even in terms of Black media, almost overwhelmingly, they don't approach things from a diverse political perspective. It's almost always left-leaning and, softball on one side. They're not really holding their feet to the fire. And year after year, they just try to get you into the emotional bag of, the other side's worse, like our side's the lesser evil, and that's like the big pitch, right? What's the worst things walking and being a man, a conservative, a Black man, identifying as a conservative? What's the worst things you've been told or called throughout your political career since you started doing this?
I'll say things are a lot different now from 2022, 23. When I first came in, people would call me Coon, Uncle Tom, all those things, all these nasty things, but it was mainly because they didn't know me. They were trying to judge me off of anyone that's conservative. They don't talk about Black issues. They don't talk about Black history. Even through these 30 minutes, I've said a lot of things that most Black conservatives wouldn't say about because they're afraid of offending the white audience. A lot of Negroes, they see that and they love that. They rock with me on that. They appreciate that I'm real with it. I don't act like it didn't happen. And I can say once people really got to know me, I can't tell you last time someone really called me a coon. It doesn't stick. It don't work for me. It's like, nigga, how? I'm promoting our culture. I promote us. That's not, come on. So I don't really have those problems. But when I came out, people ain't know who I was. Hell yeah. Like they were trying to cook me, coon, Sambo, all those things. Like I got it. But I am proof that some of those insults might be warranted for some people because I'm not getting them now because they got to know me and figure me out.
And I appreciate you pointing that out about as people got to know you, they kind of backed off and realized, all right, so wait a minute, he's not necessarily pandering. He just has a different political philosophical view, and his belief of how he think he can legitimately help us as a country and as a community. He's just attacking it from a different angle.
For sure.
When I first started this channel this year, bro, my the truth about Barack Obama episode, my guy, like it was chaos, bro. It was chaos. Like I probably got like 800, 1,000 comments like in like 24 hours.
Yeah, they do it.
The amount of N-words and coons and house slaves, like it was it was crazy. And this is the thing that I don't think they realize is when you disagree about gender reassignment surgery, when you disagree about maintaining open borders and tax dollars being reallocated to people who are not even supposed to be here, when you disagree about certain tactics or approaches of how they're even what they were marketing to us during the election, it's shocking and jarring whenever you're pointing out things that are objectively true, that you're saying, yo, this is not good, this is bad. If it's on the left, if it's amongst Democrats, they then lash out and attack you like you're the enemy.
Yes.
And I'm like, I was experiencing this my first time really coming into contact with this was like back in like 2011, 2012, when I was, talking about Obama's first term and what did we actually get for it. And, there was all these excuses, but I was seeing him delivering on tangible goods for other things in his other agenda, other people in his other agendas, other groups, DACA, Native Americans, additional rights in terms of LGBTQ. And I'm just watching and observing. I'm like, he's delivering on all the agendas and groups that he feels he needs to. But what he was asked when he ran the first time is the same question that was asked to Kamala Harris last year, which was, is there anything specific that you're going to do for Black people? And they both said the same thing. No. Now, my lens was, that's fine if your view was, well, the rising tide lifts all boats, and then Black people at the end of your term or what you're pitching are going to be better off. But that hasn't materialized. It didn't materialize with Biden. It didn't materialize with Obama. So I'm like, well, then what are you getting our votes for? What are you actually delivering on if we're just being told that if we don't do something, we're in trouble? But then in reality, it's like, but you're not we're in trouble in most areas in terms of what my observational skills. Like, so I'm like, it's shocking to know, like, I realize now that they functionally move as like a cult.
Yeah, they do.
Well, listen, I think they move like a cult. You're not allowed to leave. If you leave, we shun you, right? We ostracize you, we attack you, we demonize you, we call you every name in the book to try to manipulate you to stay on the plantation. And it's like, you know, me now being an independent, I've never, first of all, everybody that's now on the left just assumes that it's like I'm just a Trumpianite, where it's like everything he do, I just kiss the feet that he works on. I just want to be sucking up to white people now. And I'm like, these are the tactics that y'all been using all this time against anybody that wasn't voting Democrat. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I'll
say the coolest thing, and also what you mentioned about how they say they won't do nothing for the Black Party. The greatest reference to that I've seen in my recent life is in 2020, Ice Cube went to the DNC convention, I believe it was in Chicago.
Yep.
And he asked the Democrat leaders to provide a plan for Black people. They sent Ice Cube away and told him that they were going to reach back out to him with a plan. Now, the year is 2025. Democrats never officially reached back out to Ice Cube with any plan for Black people. But what makes this such poetic justice is that in 2025, about 2 months ago, Ice Cube tour bus was bombed in California. Completely bombed, firebombed, destroyed it. Because the Democrats that were protesting thought that the bus represented ICE authorities. So you mean to tell me a nigga went to the Democrat Party 5 years ago, asked them for what they could do to Black people. He waited 5 years for an answer, and the only response he got was his bus blown the fuck out by these same people. It's absolutely crazy, bro. And that's what we get for even voting Democrat. It's poetic justice, and it's somewhat funny and irony, but it's the truth about what happens. That the Democrat Party will ignore Blacks, and through the process of ignoring us, in the end, we're still going to hurt if we sit there and wait on their response. He got burned in the end, sitting there waiting on Democrats. He needs to just go ahead and become Republican. I don't know what Ice Cube's doing, but the only thing that Democrats did for him since he requested help from them was he lost his bus. They blew that shit up. They could have killed the man. And it's just showing it's a completely radical party, and they're willing to get active for the issues that they willing to get active for. So Ice Cube, they could have went to Ice Cube bus throughout these 5 years for anything else. But since that bus they thought was associated with a narrative that they truly care about, and that's the humanizing ICE, destroying ICE property, they had time for it. They can handle it right then and there. But for something they don't care about, that don't benefit them, they'll make you wait 5-6 years. The story of Ice Cube is full proof of what happens if you trust a Democrat. You will wait, and you die in the end. There is no great end result for being a Democrat voter, especially if you're a Negro.
The wildest part, or the greatest argument for why at minimum people should be independent, is exactly what you said. Tangible results. That's it. Yep. Tangible results. Like what's the tangible thing that they've done in mass for your community? Like Brandon Johnson, I think is his name, the mayor in Chicago. The amount of money that he is allowed and reallocated and poured towards people who came yesterday for shelter and you know, all the subsidies and things that they've been afforded, they were getting access to housing while the cost of living is exploding, and Chicago citizens or residents are talking about how difficult it is to even afford to stay in the downtown area in the city.
Yep.
So simultaneously, while they're not delivering for you, they're literally taking your money and giving it to people who just came here. And I'm like, and even now, this is a great example. It's the principle. It's the principle that they're not giving you something that should be redirected to you and giving it to someone else, and they've convinced you that whatever the amount is, that's fine, even if they don't give you anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Completely,
the
man.
it's the strangest thing. Just reimagine a party that actually gave you half the things that you're reacting as if they're delivering on. It would blow your mind. Like, why do you think Chicago? Why do you think Chicago almost flipped? Chicago almost
Mm-hmm.
flipped in the last election cycle, which is wild. For in my lifetime, I would even think I would want to see it. Just a couple more questions, bro, because I don't want to hold you too much
Yeah.
longer. What is something that you wish Trump would address or do a better job of as of today?
That's a good question. Mm. Mm. What I wish he could do better. Um, let's see. What has he been doing? I'm trying to think of something that he's done. Wish he could have done better with. I mean, maybe with deportation, he hasn't really been deporting as much as you think. Obama's
Mhm,
deported more than Trump,
mhm,
opposed to what the media is saying. Trump isn't deporting nor nearly enough illegal immigrants to make the change that it needs to change by the time he leaves.
mm,
He could get actually stricter on deportations. The media can dress it up how they want, but they boy Obama still deported more. That would be probably the main thing. Outside of that, I would like to see something like a platinum plan come up, the plan for blacks. But this is only the first year. We expect to see something like that around the mid of next year. So I can't really say I'm looking for something that's already in the works of coming.
mhm,
But definitely deportations will probably be one of the main things. And for I don't really know. It's not many other things. He's been doing
mhm.
pretty much everything I want to do. But mainly, I would say with deportations, probably could increase those deportations.
Yeah, I honestly think for me it would have to be global policies. I just saw the news, I think it was this week actually, about the potential peace deal that's about looks like it's about to be agreed upon and finalized in terms of
Mhm.
Ukraine and Russia. That took a long time. I think that
Yeah.
took a long time, and that took a lot of money, taxpayer money.
Yes, it did.
Right. And I wish that he had figured out a way to put more pressure into that on his end, on both countries in a way to kind
Mhm.
of get us to this point a little bit sooner, maybe at least 6 months sooner, because you don't just get in overnight and it just snap your fingers and it's done.
Yeah.
But we went on damn near a year from when he walked in till we're almost in December, and that's a lot of money, a lot of carnage, a lot of stuff, and I do wish that he would have put a lot more. I think we had much more sway in being able to, I think, have an impact on that than I think he would have with as Israel and Gaza as an example.
The,
Yeah.
it's just that President Trump walked into a doozy with that one because you got to remember that President Zelensky was somewhat promised false promises by the United States that if he listens to what President Biden say, that he will get a seat at NATO. They're still
Mhm,
not a NATO country. They got screwed over. So Zelensky is thinking, I can end this war, whatever, but I need my NATO rights. Trump pretty much telling him, I mean, it's a hard situation to tell him that that's not going to happen. And at
mhm,
the same time, to tell Putin to chill out and give these people somewhat independence. So he had a pretty hard situation that he walked into.
mhm,
But I know President Trump was working on that since day one. I know that for a fact from behind the scenes. He was working on it, but he was also working on many wars. He's working on the genocide in Congo. He's working on Israel and Palestine. So Trump was simultaneously, and also things that's been going on in Venezuela. There were a lot of things leading up to that behind the scenes. So, and also China and Taiwan. There's things that's going on all at once simultaneously. He can only
mhm,
do so much at once and get results.
mhm,
But he's doing everything at once, yeah. But he can only get results at the time that it comes. You're dealing with a man, Zelensky, who was promised many things that America currently can't give him.
mhm,
He's supposed to, you know, no longer pursue these things that he was promised, which he's
mhm,
lost troops, lost land, etc., by going through America's guidance on this war with Russia.
mhm,
And Zelensky's been burned out. You got to do. He's a human being. He's been burned out. He's looking for some type of compensation. He's looking for more assistance from America because America wanted them to beef with Russia so we could. I mean, that's a whole different story, but we needed to
mhm.
utilize that land for specific labs
The
and
resources,
spy
yeah.
intel. Yeah, they definitely need to use them. That's what America does. That's why we send our CIA
Mhm,
into countries to create coups so we can actually utilize that land and their resources to spy on our enemies.
mhm.
It's one of the ways we stay up top.
This person said from TJ Hamilton 1079, what about the 20 billion paid to Argentina beef producer while beef consumers have have faced high prices. You think about that?
I
Because
think
for me,
that's
when I looked into it, it actually looked more like a loan. It didn't actually look like we're just footing a bill and that's it. It looked like something that we're actually going to get back, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be in currency or something, some other form of exchange. Did you hear about this, or what you think?
so. What we just fund Argentina with more, what I could say, globalism funds. We're just
Yeah, it's a temporary.
yeah.
To me, when I read it and looked into it, it looked like a temporary flush to the economy, just to kind of help a system. And then they were. It's like almost like a kickback. Obama kind of did it to a degree when it came to the banks. To be fair to him, it was like in essence like a little bit of a bailout. But
I can't I can't really complain about that just because I mean I'm just conservative. I don't like us to constantly be funding these other countries.
mhm.
But what I will say this, and I gotta not be biased. I
Okay.
can't stand funding countries. I don't like the funding of any country, Israel, none of them.
Mhm.
But I'm being honest, Trump is one of the only presidents that has been whooping their ass with these tariffs and getting American people back something. I mean, hell, he's the only president that's probably get people $2,000 next summer.
Mhm.
If we are actually getting our money from these countries, if we need to like start funding them to give us more leeway in those countries, we fund them with $20 billion. That can make sense because my problem isn't with us spending money with other countries. It's a problem with us not receiving enough back,
Yep.
you know? And
Yep.
so Trump has actually already pretty much been creating that solution with these tariffs. It was tough in the beginning, but now we're starting to understand his plan and his goal, and it's helping us make a ton of money from these nations
Mhm.
to where it makes sense for us to spend money. So, I mean, we're going to have to spend money.
Mhm.
We are countries. It's going to be in the billions for the
Mhm.
most part. 20, 40 million don't do nothing for a country like Argentina. So
Mhm.
just being
Mhm.
realistic, we're in the year 2025. You can't give a country $17 million anymore.
Yeah.
Things are very
Yeah.
high. So the fact that he's doing the tariffs,
Mhm.
I don't really like helping any other country, like I said, but if it was ever a time to help countries, it's
Mhm.
at least good that we know we're getting some money back.
Mhm.
And I think he's just really good with the way he's financing things. I know they're not getting that. I mean, America, it's almost like a parole officer. You're
Mhm.
not really truly free.
Yeah.
If I
Of
was
course.
any other country, I ain't gonna lie. The things I know about this country, I have a secret security clearance still. And
Mhm.
there's some things I know about this country, bro. I would not want to be in debt with us. I ain't gonna
At
lie
all.
to you. I wouldn't. I'm thankful I'm America because I was like, bro, what if we the bad guys? Some stuff I learned
Mhm.
like, God damn,
In many
we do
respects,
some things,
they probably
bro.
think that's the case, right?
Yeah, we do something that most of the world believes that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely would hate to be in debt with America. It's not Americans hate when we give people money, but please believe they
Mhm.
suffering. We're not giving it to them for free. I can assure them that we're
Well,
getting
my big
something out of it.
sorry about that. My and then another one that I thought of, and this was actually a really, really big one that I think definitely impacted my ability to even feel comfortable with voting for Kamala Harris was housing costs.
Mm,
Now, um, my view was that the number one entity that was buying up all the real estate, everybody knows at this point, was BlackRock,
yeah,
and they donated to Kamala Harris's campaign. So very logical. If housing costs are crazy, cost of living in terms of housing is crazy, and the ones who are benefiting from it are actively donating and funding a campaign for one of the two people that's running, highly unlikely that she's going to put in policies in place that could impact their profits,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and if she's saying, well, I'm going to give everybody $10,000, $20,000, and that's not going to change the cost of the properties, it was just going to artificially boost up the prices of the cost of everything because they know you got an extra 10, 20K from the government, and the government's getting that money from us. So
Mm,
I was like, this is horrible. Now, with him having been in for a year, my view was I would have wished and like that him and the House and the Senate could have had a conversation and come up with a policy to reduce the ability for single family homes to be purchased by these conglomerate huge single families are competing with multi-trillion dollar, multi-billion
mm,
dollar, multi-trillion dollar companies. Same thing with Bill Gates buying up all this farmland. Like that I'm extremely frustrated with because if you're going to
yeah,
be America first, you can't allow the American people to not be able to afford to buy anything.
yep, I
And the
agree.
number one way to pass on wealth is it for most Americans is land, is real estate. It's
Mhm.
leaving especially as an inheritance. And that's a big, big thing that I already knew 100% that Kamala wouldn't do anything about it based on who was funding her. But with him, that obviously hasn't been on the agenda. And like you said, he is running around and doing a whole bunch of different things. I do hope over the next 3 years that something is put in place to kind of address that. Because I bought my house a year ago, and I live in New Jersey, and
Yeah.
we pay 14,000 in property taxes alone. So
Damn.
yeah, so
Good
you can
God.
imagine, our mortgage, new build, new community, and property taxes. We're paying something that like 85-90% of the people in the country isn't paying.
That's absolutely insane, man.
It's like, bro, and that's what it is. And again, that was, I can't blame him for what we had to pay a year ago. I mean, well over a year ago. But at the same time, I would have, for everybody that still wants to get into real estate, still wants to purchase a home a year in, that seems like that hasn't really been a thing yet. And I definitely hope that becomes a priority between now and, over the next 3 years for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
We definitely need that.
With the recent passing of segue into recent passing of Charlie Kirk, are you worried about where we're heading, as a country in terms of like censorship and free speech, or do you think that was more like a one-off?
Well, we also just had 2 National Guard members that was shot today in DC. So it does seem like we're heading to more violent times for people that have freedom of speech. But nonetheless, I think it's more of a rare occurrence. But I think we can see a whole lot more of it, depending on how we react to it. If it's not denounced enough, and it doesn't matter if conservatives denounce it, you need the left to go ahead and denounce this stuff. It's evil, denounce it as demonic. If not, we're going to see a whole lot more deaths, because it's gotten to the point now that people bodies are dropping, and it just needs to be denounced by the own party that's doing it, because conservatives can say it's bad all they want. But if you're viewed as Nazis, these people are, in their theory, saving the world from fascism. So if these people will continue this narrative that we're fascists, we're Nazis, we all these other things, they're going to feel validated in targeting us, because they're saving the world from radicals. So the messaging has to change. But I still don't think a lot of people, especially when you got the left, most of them are pretty feminine. Most people ain't got the heart to do it. So it's still more so a one-off thing. And it's obvious that boy wasn't working alone with the Charlie Kirk scenario. And I don't think it was really just about freedom of speech. It was about his power. That was one of the few individuals that actually helped people win their elections. Yeah.
I think it was next up, bro. It's going to sound crazy. I think because a lot of people who, especially talking amongst a lot of black people and liberals and Democrats that never even heard or knew about him, they didn't realize how big he was. And I was trying to explain to them that his influence was even if I don't agree with him on everything, his influence to the right and amongst conservative circles was so big and massive that without him, I don't think Trump would have won this election.
Yeah.
Even with all the other strategies that he put in place. I think the way that he stumped for him, the way that he moved from, the way that he, argue for MAGA and all this other stuff, he was huge. And honestly, I do believe that over the next 4 to 8 years, he was already the face of conservatism.
Yeah,
he was already the face of it. And now, it's kind of splintered in terms of, between Nick and some other people who's going to now be that person. So, it's interesting, but I really started noticing it during the Obama's years, and then 2020 is when it really accelerated in terms of the government's role of censorship, in terms of what happened with COVID, in terms of people getting debanked, deplatformed, losing their licenses. In my field in psychology, for the last 4 to 6 years, people's licenses were seriously into question. If you question some of these approaches that the left and the liberals were kind of saying, like, you just have to affirm. You have to affirm this, you have to affirm that. And I'm like, y'all do know previous diagnostic statistical manuals of editions 3 and 4 prior to 5, this would have been considered a disorder. And now you're saying that this is something we have to affirm and use medical interventions on children. Most psychologists, psychiatrists, and licensed therapists prior to this new iteration of, well, it's on the left, and I guess we're supposed to affirm and accept this now, you would have stopped this. You would have said, no, this is gender dysphoria. And now that barely ever, no one's even using that terminology anymore when it's happening at a rapid pace. So it's like, it's been shocking to see how bad and how much censorship was moving. And what I'm more so concerned about, along with the shooting, along with the temporary space right now since Trump came into office, you're seeing this spigot open of people finally feeling like they can talk again, get their opinions out. Of course, there's still a lot of attacks with certain groups or whatever, but for the most part, a lot of people are starting to feel like they can actually be a little bit more open, or at least independents and conservatives. They feel like they can actually be honest about the state of the country. That is not a good thing to have open borders. That is not a good thing to, not have certain standards. Like more and more people are starting to open up about that. But I'm noticing and realizing now, like, I'm worried about what's on the other side with AI, with the surveillance state, with talks about digital ID and mandated digital currency coming in the next handful of years. Are you worried about those things like legitimately coming in terms of like, have you heard the stuff about like World Economic Forum
Yeah,
and
I don't think America will see none of that anytime soon. I've
Mm,
seen about it, digital ID and whatnot, but just for the simple fact that we still have guns, they'd have to take our guns away before they even try to start implementing those things on us, because
mm,
those systems of control, they hold no power with us still having access to weapons. So they'd have to first get rid of the weapons first before they
mm,
could even consider us to start getting digital IDs and whatnot.
Yeah,
I think I can see it for other countries though.
yeah, for me, I think the idea is first. And I feel like between now and 2028, if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen around then. To me,
Yeah.
if it's going to happen, and the only way I can envision it is if they treat it the similar way in which they did COVID, where they create the conditions where people feel like they're scared, they feel like they can't travel, they feel like, whatever the situation or thing that's going to happen, the spark that they're going to use to justify why we now need that. I don't know what they're going to do. I just know that when COVID happened, we went through this era where people lost their jobs, people got kicked out the military, nurses got fired, people lost their license. Like all this chaos and crazy stuff happened when the government decided, you can't go here, you can't buy this, I mean, you can't travel here, you can enter this establishment. And I'm like, now reimagine if they do this with an ID, and God forbid if they do this when it comes to currency. And I agree with you, that may be our only saving grace. And I feel like all the stuff that you talked about tonight, we collectively, between red versus blue, left versus right, we're not going to all realize that we're supposed to be on the same team until that comes up, to me.
Mm.
Until then, it's cultural war per usual, which just
Yeah.
constantly, my side's better, this side's evil, this side's fascist. Like, I don't think it's until there's a globalist agenda that comes knocking at our door and puts into question our ability to identify ourselves and how they can track everything. And then when it comes to our money and trying to get rid of paper currency, whenever that happens, if they try to make it happen, that may be the only time the American people, the 99%, actually realize, oh, okay, this is not what we voted for. This appears to be something that's coming and being projected on us, even external from the nation of the US. And I'm already seeing it happen in the UK, a couple other Western countries. So I'm like, I hope it's not the case, but I do know that there were Western countries that I also envisioned would have never seen them getting to the point of where they are now. And the only difference, you're right, is that they don't have the guns. They don't even have a lot of the weapons that we have access to.
Hmm.
So I appreciate your level of thought.
Yeah.
Real quick, what's your most interesting conspiracy theory?
It'd have to be one that I created myself, and that's about, so every war that we go in, it's called a generation. So first generation of wars with like sticks and stones, whatnot. Second generation of war was when we started having, I think, carriages like horses, and then the third generation of war was like with planes and
Mhm,
uh, ships, and the fourth generation of war was like drones, whatnot. So the fifth generation of war has been listed as psychological warfare,
mhm,
and that means that it's no longer with missiles, it's no longer with physical or whatnot. That
mhm,
means the actual generation of war that we're in is considered psychological. That's
mhm,
social media, that's digital, that's about the mind. So if we're in the fifth generation of war, that means the war itself has changed, and what is considered a battlefield has changed. So social media would be deemed a battlefield with that terminology, and if social
mhm,
media is a battlefield with that terminology, that would mean if the modern era war is more psychological than it is physical, because there's more wars going on social media for the minds of people than there are physical right
mhm,
now. There's less physical wars in history than all human history right now. That's only because people are now fighting online.
mhm,
If that was
mhm,
true, then my theory is that we are actually in World War III. Reason being, you
mm,
have China. trying to manipulate the minds of Americans. You have
Russia.
Russia,
Israel.
Israel, all
Oh.
these people trying to manipulate the minds of Americans. And so you have all these different countries attempting to manipulate the minds of Americans with bots, with fake influencers, with this and that. And that is warfare. That's psychological warfare. That's fifth generation of war. So if there are different countries that trying to manipulate each other, Americans are doing the same thing. They even have some influencers try to manipulate other countries. If it's all about manipulations, and if it's all about online control, that would mean we would theoretically be in World War III, because it's all countries going at it using their resources of war. So my theory is that we are in World War III, that World War III started a while ago, and they don't really want to tell the American people that because it would keep a lot of people uneasy. But we are spending a ton of money on psychological warfare. We're spending almost more money on our digital defenses than we are in physical now. We don't really need to make that many new tanks. They're focusing on digital assets. So things have changed, and it keeps a lot of Americans at ease if they don't know what the internet is. You know, ignorance is bliss. If they really understood they were on a battlefield, they would view the entire thing differently. But yeah, it's completely digital. I believe we're in World War III. That's my greatest conspiracy theory.
Not only I try to pride myself on identifying pretty easy to identify like propaganda and attempts to indoctrinate us and everything. And it's very easy to kind of to me kind of identify it when it's homegrown. But the problem is, you're so right. China, Russia, Israel, probably other nations that we don't even know of.
Yeah, Qatar.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's like we are in World War III, and now it's a battle of the minds and for our attention.
Yep. Yep.
Damn.
We're fighting every day. Yep.
Wow. So man, so that means, bro, you a warrior whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, we all are. Everyone is. Yeah, it's completely different. We're assets. We're government assets. A lot of influencers at the top, like White House and stuff, we're government assets. We might sometime get orders that have trickled down from the very top, as if I'm still a soldier. I was in the army. Things are still, it's a lot similar now. I'll tell you that honestly. We're soldiers working for assets for our country. That's why some influencers, if they don't do right, they disappear, because you're a government asset. You're no longer really just a creator. The government's got their hands in this. Then there's no system in the world that can exist for 2 decades the government doesn't take interest in and start to control. Social media is no different. Influencers are no different. The government is involved now. It's not just a free internet. They're playing too. But it's just the truth.
I can't believe you just you freaked me out even more. And I know you're right. That's the crazy part. I know that you're wow.
It's crazy, bro. It's a whole different world. Yeah.
Well, listen, for the followers and listening, as of now, I'm not a government agent. Apparently, I'm not big enough. I might not be on their radar as of yet. Listen, you definitely on their radar because
definitely.
How many different politicians and people that you've come into contact with. Listen, man, I've had you for an hour. Why don't you let everybody know how they can follow you and support you?
Thank you, bro. It's a pleasure being here. It's Dom Lucre, the same as my username. You can search that anywhere on Google, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah, and expect to see more collabs with me and him and the clips and stuff on our social medias.
Listen, man, I appreciate you coming through. We definitely got to do this again. And I definitely hope to, come into your space when you host and do these type of things and listen, make sure that y'all follow this brother. Make sure y'all support him. He's one of the few people who's real, authentic. What you see on camera is truly who he is behind the scenes.
Appreciate you.
How he covers things. There's a reason why he can get into the spaces that he does, because he actually brings to the table legitimately good work. He sources a lot of the stuff that he does. Listen, man, keep killing it. Best believe I'm gonna be reaching out to you soon when I might have to have like a new monthly news thing where we kind of make you I think for me and my audience, we need somebody that's on the inside to kind of let us know exactly what that last piece that you said, bro. There's a warfare going on for the mind, and it's in the media, it's in the music, it's in the internet, it's in the social media. And if we're not discerning and recognizing what they're doing, we'll fall for whatever agenda they want us to support, accept, or vote for. So, bro, I appreciate you, man, for kind of putting us on game.
Appreciate you, bro. You have a great channel. You got a great audience, bro. You reached. I had to come out. At any time, bro. Anything for you.
Appreciate you, man. All right, man. Have a good evening, and let me close out with everybody.
You too, bro. Appreciate you.
Yo, man, I think that this was a really dope, interesting show. I got super lucky to get this brother on. Like I said, he's extremely busy. He's always flying around. He's Like I said, the dude got a million. Oh my God, the dude got a million followers on Twitter alone, and he's constantly at the White House. He's meeting with all these political figures. The dude is always in the mix, and I just got him on my damn channel, which is wild and crazy. And I hope that y'all are starting to see that between psychologists, therapists, entertainers, authors, I'm bringing various different deep intellectuals and thinkers. This is again, this is the zone. This is the zone for me of just this is the free thought zone where we're allowed to critique, we're allowed to think, we're allowed to express, we're allowed to have these different emotions. And I think that this was hopefully something that you all liked and enjoyed for sure. So if you have not liked this video, please make sure that you do. If you have not hit that super chat button to donate the $2, feel free to do so. If you are a member, do not donate if you don't have to, if you don't feel you need to, because you're already supporting the channel as well. Like I told y'all, I am going to be hitting the ground running. Obviously, I got DD reactions next week, but beyond that, your boy is going to be hitting y'all crazy. Y'all been asking for it. I'm going to be hitting y'all with content after content, original content of all these different topics and things that I've kind of been thinking about. Master Communicator is next. And I'm going to be, just constantly testing and listening to y'all feedback. If there's particular guests that y'all have in mind that y'all want to come on the platform, please make sure that you kind of tell them to email me and reach out to me or DM me so I can kind of connect with them. There's definitely a whole host of people, and I definitely got some major big surprises coming as far as future guests coming on in the month of December, potentially the second week of December as well. So listen, y'all, enjoy your holiday break. Hope y'all enjoy your time, rest, relax. Like he said, there is a war going on, and it's a war that started and we didn't even know we were in it. It's a war for your mind. It's a war for your thoughts, and it's a war for your attention. And the more that they've had a hold of your thoughts, that probably explains why you have such visceral reactions with the opposite side, if they're black and you're white, if you're a man and they're a woman, or a woman and a man. Much of what this animosity is because of who's pushing this propaganda, what they're constantly feeding us in the algorithm. They're shaping our perception of reality, and they're making us hate each other. They're making us hate each other. The idea that somebody that votes differently than you is now a sellout to their race because abortion isn't number one on your list. Now you hate women because you believe that borders are important for a reason, just like a locked door in your house or car is there for a reason. Now all of a sudden you hate immigrants. Like, come on, y'all. We got to stop falling for the okie doke. I'm not one to kind of worship either of these parties, and I'm personally grateful and happy that I am an independent. But it's very easy. But everybody on the right is racist, and that you could keep saying that, but there's a reason why people are leaving the Democrat Liberal Party right now, on the far extremist progressives in droves. It isn't just because of false talking points. It's because of people's actual experiences. Heck, I've even seen some people leaving the Republican Party for different reasons because they felt like some of the extremism has gotten out of whack. My personal lenses, I think people need to start to personally be more independent in each election cycle. Just look at what they're running on, what their track record is, and make the decision that you think makes the most sense for you, your immediate community, and your immediate needs. And there's no perfect process with this, but I do hope that we get better at, reading, not getting all of our news or our information and learning about political concepts strictly off of what's on the shade room or what's ever trending on social media. We got to get back into these books. I think the first part to really get better at the whole concept of whatever this psychological warfare was that he was describing, I think we got to start reading. I think we got to start getting original sources. I think we got to be less reactive. And I think we got to be less emotionally led. I think the parties that figure out a way to keep us emotionally charged and constantly divided over cultural issues, they can get away with doing all kind of things behind the scenes until one day we wake up and find out that we're in a cage, potentially a digital one. So, I hope that this was a really interesting and thoughtful episode. And I hope that, all of you that are really into politics, this dude's really on the inside, like really on the inside, from a ex-military to a political commentator, constantly working in and outside of the White House, constant connections and people. It's not about always agreeing with him. Just know that perhaps he knows and sees a whole lot more than what you and I potentially could ever imagine. And I've seen it, and I've met him in person, and he's legit. There's a reason why he got about 1 million plus people following him for sure. So listen, y'all. I hope that this was dope. I hope that this was interesting. I hope this last 3 weeks of worth of interviews of all these different people I brought on. I hope that y'all enjoyed this stuff, man. So like this video, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so. Please become a member if you have not done so. It's $2.99 to do so, and we'll see, what happens in and of itself for sure. So listen, y'all, have a good day, have a good evening, and I'm gonna see y'all on the other side. And best believe, when these videos start coming in terms of the episodes, don't say I didn't warn you in terms of the original content. It is coming. It is coming. It is coming in the next 48 hours, and I'm going to hit the ground running. And the more that y'all support it, if y'all see those videos, the one thing that I ask besides liking it is that two things: share it with 2 to 3 friends, and then you swipe over to the right instead of clicking on the comment section. Swipe to the right and make sure that you hype up those original content pieces, because those are going to be pre-recorded, and I'm probably going to upload some of them to the live. I may do some of them live as well. We'll see. I tend to like, having them in such a way where I have captions and, I can have other stuff going on. So typically I want to do pre-records with those. And that's really the only reason why there's slight delays. Enjoy y'all holiday. Enjoy y'all break. Make sure y'all get some rest. And I'm going to see y'all on the other side. Godson out. Peace.